this is the symbol of a combat personnel. And this is what we wore on the base when we flew. And on the back is our B-24. And here are the number of missions. Every time that I flew a mission, I had a bomb painted on there.
So 31, is that my count?
No, 32 is the correct one. You know why? It took me a little longer to get the 32nd in, so he left, the fellow who did the painting. And so he wasn't around, so we did without it.
The real deal.
The one thing that I'm going to show you is the one that everybody went wild over. The most sought after thing at the museum. And that was a piece of anti-gun. We screwed up their radar by throwing that out of our plane. It was an aluminum foil, which the minute I threw out had a chute attached to it. And the whipping of the wind opened up the chute, and it dangled now, and it unraveled 50 feet of aluminum foil. And when you throw out many of these, it screws up their radar. Other than that, they were hitting the hell out of us. And so I'm going to show you what that was. And when I had the Admiral of the Navy come, they asked me to be his docent, and I took him around. And when he was going around with me, I showed him this piece of foil, parachute foil. And he said to me, "That's from your plane?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're kidding me. I mean, you actually flew and that was there?" He says, "Oh my goodness, he's not used to being with somebody who was active in there, being this generation." I served from May 29, 1942 to June 30th, 1945. I was with the 445th Bomb Group.
445th?
445th
Okay.
Bomb Group, 300th Bomb Squad. And to add a little highlight to it, and who do you think flew with us in combat? The famous Jimmy Stewart. He was part of our bomb group.
Really? What role did he play?
He was command pilot. My role was lead radio operator.
Okay.
I would take charge of all the communications the minute we left the base.
So you rode in the front part of the cockpit of the plane?
I was riding in my own office right behind the co-pilot. When I was a kid, my greatest joy was, very rarely did you see a plane in the air then. Very rarely was there a plane in the air. And when there was one, I was so thrilled and delighted that I watched it from the time I heard it until it disappeared. And from that time on, I always dreamt, oh, how I would like to fly that plane. And it was a boyhood dream of mine. No, so what happened, I passed my test. I had to have a minimum of 2 years college credit, and I had to be physically able, and 5'8". And so I barely scratched through at 5'8". They gave me the benefit of the doubt. And so when I was accepted, I went directly as an air cadet, and I went into pilot training. I was in pilot training for quite some time, when suddenly, and everybody wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was our ambition. Why? In the late 1920s, around 1929, we had Charles Lindbergh cross the pond. And when that happened, there was a whole new revolution of thinking with the air. Everybody wanted to fly. Everybody was thinking of flying over, and that was my dream too. I pursued this dream until all of a sudden the war was on. We were attacked. So what do? They say, we need you, in all the airs with the silken scarf and all that with the helmet. And so I couldn't wait. I ran down to Governor's Island, took the test, and I was there for 3 more times for 3 more tests.
These were physical examinations, or?
Physical, mental, and moral. To see if I was morally fit. So I passed, and I went directly into the 8th Air Force as a cadet, and I did pilot training for quite some time. I had 40-odd hours as a trainee in pilot training, where suddenly the Air Force decided the only way we could win the war is by having bombers, not fighter pilots. Of course, that's the only way to destroy the enemy and all their production. So suddenly, everybody who's a potential fighter pilot, like myself, were told, you have now a choice to continue as a bombardier, a navigator, or a radio operator. I had no choice. I didn't want to be a bombardier, because all you do as a bombardier, you have 3 minutes of glory when you're ready to drop the bomb. I wanted to take navigation, and I put my application in, and they told me the class is filled up. So the only choice for me, radio operator. So I studied radio, wireless, code, and all that, and I qualified as eventually after my 6th mission, I was taken to fly lead radio operator. So I handled all the transactions that were necessary from my plane to the base and back and forth. I had to encode my message. Nothing was done in plain code. So that was my role, and I continued that until I did 32 missions after being promised that all I had to do was 25. And so they lied to me, but I gave them a break with 7 extra missions. Every day we came out with a new code.
Okay.
And so when I was in combat and I had to transmit a message, I had to encode it according to the code of the day.
Okay.
And that's what I did. And then when I received the message, I had to use the code that they gave me to encode and translate what the message said.
So you had to reverse the Morse code and then reverse the whatever gibberish language into the message according to
the idea.